just so everyone knows, I have indeed started my own website at harmansmithbooks.com. That is harmansmithbooks.com. Go on there to get updates on what I'm doing, a blog. You have access to all my books, all my social media. Everything that I do is on there, and it will be a pleasure to continue creating new and interesting content for you for as long as I possibly can. Today is the 86th birthday of the legendary Bugs Bunny. So I thought to celebrate that I would come up with a fun video idea, a fun concept that I've been thinking about for a long time that I've never really seen anyone bring up before, and something that I think might be amusing. Bugs Bunny in Watership Down. Like, I felt that this had to be a thing that should exist somewhere, but I looked for it, no fan art, nothing. So I decided that, I'm just gonna, go through the entire plot of Watership Down with Bugs Bunny just transplanted into the plot, okay? Let's see what would happen. So obviously Bugs is always shown living on his own in a hole in the middle of nowhere. I guess that would make him more of a hare than a rabbit for this conversation. So he doesn't really have anything to do with but anyway, Bugs is he's either a hare or a rabbit, depending on the scenario. It's always been kind of debatable. I imagine he's a hare, realistically speaking. But yeah, for this, in our hypothetical scenario, he's a rabbit in Watership Down. So he's living on his own, away from any kind of warren, when eventually Hazel and the others stumble on his hole. So Hazel and the others are just oh man, another rabbit, we have a place to stay, we can build our warren here. And Bugs is just no, get out of my house. And so what ends up happening is that Bugs is trying to get rid of these guys, but there's so many of them, and he starts, and they're so nice to him, and they genuinely want to help him expand his house and make it more like an actual rabbit den, that he starts feeling genuinely sorry for them. So he's just okay, you can't live here, but I'm gonna go with you and find you a new warren, so we don't have to so you don't have to move into my house, okay? So Bugs goes off with these bunnies. They go off into the wilderness, and they evade predators the way Bugs normally does. They learn a lot about physics. They learn about They get into all these crazy misadventures, and then they inevitably end up at... So eventually they come across Cowslip's warren, and Bugs is just oh man, thank goodness, oh man, that's done with, okay, time to go home. But what ends up happening is that he realizes what the warren is instantly. Bugs, being such an high IQ, trickster, is instantly able to see through Cowslip's bullshit and is immediately able to see through, the giant scam. So instead of calling him out on it, instead Bugs does this thing where he's just hey, Cowslip, want to go for a walk? Upside? Why don't we just walk around this little tree branch here? No, you go here, I'll go on the other side. And Cowslip is he's aware of what's going on. He knows there are traps everywhere. But Bugs, it keeps putting him in these compromising positions where he has to demonstrate to the outsiders that the warren is completely safe. Otherwise they're not going to stay, and otherwise he is at risk of being captured himself. So Cowslip is in this compromising position where he has to deal with Bugs Bunny trying just putting him very, very close to very real danger in order to preserve himself. So eventually he snaps, and the entire scam just collapses. And as it does in in the book, the characters just leave, move on, taking one of Cowslip's number with them, and they just, leave, find their warren of Watership Down. And so Bugs is about to leave. You know, he's about to go home because they've settled. But like he gets roped in to like helping the Warren find mates, right? Because that's the plot of the second half of the novel is that they don't have any female rabbits, which is critical to the plot, by the way. So Bugs Bunny is just like, okay, if you're gonna settle here, I'll take you to the nearby farm. So they go, they find some females, and then they just get into that situation where they have to go up against the General Woundwort, okay? Like it does in the original. So in the original book, it's Bigwig who infiltrates, like, the General's Warren and, like, you know, gets people to, like, to leave and, like, come back with them, and the General just pursues them. But what happens in this version is that Bugs Bunny is there and decides instead to just fuck with the General. Okay? So he just comes up to him and he's just like, what's up, Doc? And then the General just, like, keeps, like, trying to, like, bully him, trying to, like, overwhelm him. And then Bugs just keeps, like, getting the better of him. So, like, Bigwig is taking, like, the refugees across the river. You know, they're going back to Watership Down. And Bugs is, like just a little bit behind, just fucking with Woundwort and his people. You know, he's setting dogs on them. He's, like, you know, he's like, you know, sending them on the wrong trail. They keep getting in all these, like, disastrous scenarios. And in the end, like, Woundwort ends up at Watership Down with, like, a significantly smaller fighting force than he had initially. And so, like, you know, the story plays out, like, pretty much like it does in the book, where, like, Woundwort is defeated and by, you know, a passing by dog, and everyone celebrates. And Hazel turns to Bugs, and he's just like, yes, let us tell a story of Elirira. And then Bugs is just like, no one has called me by that name in a long time. And then he just kind of disappears and ascends into a higher plane of existence, revealing that entire time Bugs Bunny was actually Elirira. Like, the original rabbit. Like, it was he who led the rabbits from Watership Down to Watership Down, and it was he who inspired Hazel to lead, and it inspired all these crazy events. It was Bugs the entire time. Okay. So, yeah. Obviously this is, like, a silly idea, but, like, I don't know, it's fun. I enjoy the idea of it. But yeah, what do you think? What would Bugs Bunny do if he was in Watership Down? Like, how exactly would he interact with all these characters? What would he do? What would the end result of all this be? Would it play out exactly like the original novel? Like, what are your ideas?